everybody. Can everyone hear me okay? Fantastic. All right, well, my name is Josh, and I will be your park interpreter for this evening. Welcome to the amphitheater. Glad you could make it.
Hi.
And before we begin our feature presentation, Avian Adventures, I want to first recognize that we're on the unceded territory of the Endiclatma First Nations. This land and the surrounding areas have been used by multiple different First Nations groups for thousands of years for hunting, fishing, and trading. And so it's important that as we live, work, and camp here, that we walk with respect on the land and towards the people who have been here for a very long time. And secondly, we're funded by the Skagit Environmental Endowment Commission, as well as Hope Mountain Center, Manning Park Resort, and generous visitor donations from people like yourselves. If you feel that you want to help us out in that way, you are more than welcome. We greatly appreciate it. There's a donation bin at the back. And that just goes towards helping us make props, gas for our generator, and keeping these programs going for a very long time, year after year. Well, now that we have the intro out of the way, we will begin our show, Avian Adventures. Now, of course, tonight's all about birds, but I'll be honest, I don't actually know anything about birds. So I'm sorry that you got me tonight. I guess it won't be that great of a show. Actually, I have a friend, though, named Bart the Birder, and I wanted to invite him to give a little program instead. So if you're all okay with that, I'll go grab Bart the Birder from the back.
Not really.
All right, okay. I'll be back in a moment. Bart will be out soon.
The bird is coming. Where's the projector? Imagine it was
Hello there. My name is Bart the Birder, and I absolutely love birds. And I also love Manning Park, you see, because here there are over 206 different species of birds that you could see. And that's because of a few things, and one of those is that there's just so many different habitats that a bird might like to live in. We have the dense coniferous forests, we have the marshy wetlands, and even the subalpine meadows way up high in the mountains. So it's a pretty cool place here. But first, I want to explain my name a little bit, Bart the Birder. You might be more familiar with the term bird watcher, and well, I just think birder is a little bit more correct. You see, it's pretty simple. Someone who dances is a dancer, someone who runs is a runner, and so someone who birds, well, they're a birder. And that's who I am. Now that we have that out of the way, I was thinking that maybe we could go on a little bit of a birding expedition. Are you all interested in that? Yes? All right, fantastic. Well, it's important as we go on this adventure that you keep your eyes open because birds are very colorful and beautiful, but also your ears open because each bird species has a special, unique sound or song that you can identify them by. All right? So keep those ears open and we will begin our expedition. Does anyone hear that sound?
Yes.
Any guesses as to what this might be?
Birds.
Birds? All right. Right there. A robin? Good guess. Up there in the red and gray.
Bird.
Bird? Okay. There.
A recording.
Oh, a recording? Nope, absolutely not a recording.
It's a recording of a bird.
And at the back in the gray shirt over there.
A bird. A bird.
A bird. All right. Well, you know, I'm thinking about this, and I'm just not so sure this is actually a bird at all. So I think I heard it back here, and I will go check it out. Oh, there it is.
It's a bird. It's a chipmunk.
It's a chipmunk. Oh, it's a talking chipmunk. My name is Peanut the chipmunk. Oh, well, hello there, Peanut. Now, not to be rude or anything, but this is actually a program about birds, and as far as I'm concerned, you're not the bird.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I've just been through the ringer today, and I was hoping that maybe you could give me some guidance and knowledge about all the wild creatures around in this park, Manning Park.
Yeah, maybe we could do that. Do you all want to help Peanut out with the creatures around
Yes.
here? Yes? Okay, most of you said yes. Fantastic. All right, well, Peanut, you can go ahead.
All right, so you see, I was out collecting seeds and nuts for my little children. Oh, my little young ones, I love them so much. Well, as I was out collecting seeds, you see, I got lost. Oh my, I was so scared, and I was just thinking about my little young ones because they must be scared without their mama too. So I was walking and walking and walking, searching for this, for my little ones. I gave up on those seeds because I just wanted to find my young ones. And then I came across this big, big lake, you see, and I heard a ghost. Oh, it was terrifying. And I saw this big black and white apparition coming towards me. There it is right there. Hi.
Does anyone have any idea, there it is again, what type of creature Peanut might be seeing? Okay, we got lots of hands here. Right there in the purple.
A wolf.
Yes, you. A goose, good guess.
A wolf.
Batman shirt right there.
Owl.
An owl, that's also a good guess. What about next to you there, Batman shirt?
A wolf.
A wolf, good guess as well. Okay, we'll have one more, okay, in the orange shirt. A loon, that is correct, absolutely. So here is a loon, more specifically the common loon. There's 3 different species of loons in North America, but here we have the common loon. They live in freshwater lakes, and they love to dive to eat fish. So here I have a photo of one under the water diving, and there's a few things that make these loons special and help them be adapted for diving for fish. Does anyone have any guesses from looking at this picture? What could help them out? Right there in the front.
Their feet.
Absolutely. So they have these really big webbed feet, and they're actually not right in the center of their body like a lot of birds, but they're right at the back, like their bum. And so they just do this and move along through the water like a little motorboat. Does anyone else have any ideas? Right there, second row.
He doesn't know anything. He just said writing his hands.
Okay. All right. Good guess. Okay, we'll have one more in the turquoise shirt in the middle. Yeah.
没有，他就瞎说，他不知道人家在问什么。
Pardon? Waterproof feathers? Fantastic. They do also have waterproof feathers, and that helps them to stay streamlined and aerodynamic under the water. And then when they pop back up afterwards, they're not all soaking wet, and they can just fluff up their feathers once again to stay warm. So there's a few other things as well. When they're ready to go underneath the water, they will pull in all those feathers and push out the extra air, and that makes them heavier, less buoyant. And they'll also breathe out of the lungs a little bit to be heavier. But really, what makes them really, really heavy is their bones. These loons actually have solid bones, unlike a lot of other birds. Most birds, they have hollow bones so that they can fly really well in the sky. But these birds are more concerned about diving, so they have heavy, heavy bones. And they're solid. And then once they're underneath the water, there's a few things to help them to catch fish. They have huge eyes that let in a lot of light so they can see in murky water. But here in Lightning Lake, of course, these loons are lucky because they don't even need those good eyes. It's so clear already. I actually was out canoeing a couple weeks ago, and I could see there was a loon coming up to my canoe, and then it dove under, and I could see it swimming underneath the water, just like that there. It was very, very cool. And they also have this really big beak that you see. And birds, they don't have teeth like a lot of other animals do. And so it's hard to grab hold of slippery things like fish. Except loons, they have an adaptation where their beaks are really, really rough and bumpy. And so it helps them grab hold of those slippery, slimy fish. And I mentioned before that they're very heavy, right? They have solid bones. And this, well, it helps them dive really well, but it causes a few problems when they're trying to fly. This is one here trying to take off, and they actually need a runway, just like an airplane, of up to 400 meters long along the water. And so when they're ready to take off, they will be running with their feet like this, their big webbed feet, pushing up on the water, flapping their wings vigorously, and eventually they can take off. Depending on wind conditions and all that, sometimes they can shorten that distance, but that's the maximum distance that they might need. And they also eat quite a bit of food. This is another reason why they're so heavy. They can eat 2 pounds of fish a day. And that is about 20% of their body weight, because on average these loons weigh about 10 pounds. That is equivalent if the average Canadian adult were to eat 170 Big Macs every day. So they have quite the appetite, these birds. And I also mentioned before that they have those feet at the back of their bodies, right? Really good for swimming, and not so good for walking on land. So I have a video here, and just take a look. See, watch this loon attempt to walk. It's tired already. And it's almost there. Oh, it never made it. Unfortunately. Yeah, you have a question?
So when it lays eggs, where does it lay eggs?
I will be getting that in a moment. All right. And I also want to mention that once it does take off after it's been flying, it can reach speeds of up to 110 kilometers per hour. So they're actually very fast flyers. They just struggle a little bit with getting off of the water. You have a question there? Yeah.
What about the chipmunk? Are you going to do anything else?
Absolutely. Peanut's just listening just as you are. So we'll get back to Peanut shortly. And you asked about those little chicks. And yes, here are the chicks that ride on their parents' back. They do this for the first week or so after they hatch. And then after that, they're pretty strong. They can dive and swim on their own. But since they don't like walking on land, they will build their nests right close to shore. Sometimes so close to the water that it's actually floating up and down with the waves. And so these little birds, they get to have a lakefront upbringing. And there's been this myth around for a while that loons will mate for life. And this is based on good reasoning. You see, both parents will actually raise the kids every single summer, and both parents will equally are involved with that parenting. But sometimes one of those loons, they pass away, and in that case they will find another partner. And sometimes a small loon is driven out of a lake by a bigger loon, and in that case they'll also have to find another partner. So in all truth, each loon has a couple different partners throughout its lifetime, but as long as there aren't any extenuating circumstances, it does keep coming back again and again with the same one. So to remember the loon, and this is going to come in handy later, okay, we're going to put our hands over our head like this and put that down, and this is going to represent that big beak, okay, of that loon. And remember that. That'll be coming in handy later on.
So you're you're telling me that ghost was a loon?
Yes, that's right, Peanut.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. However, well, it turned out to be a pretty nice ghost, you see, or so-called loon. She had given me a ride on her back, just like her little chicks, across the lake. And I asked her to come on the walk for my journey. And she said no, she couldn't walk on land very well. So, I guess you're right, Bart. That must have been a loon. Anyhow, I carried on my merry way, or the not so merry way, because I was sad about my little children, and kept walking and walking and walking, until I came to this big field full of these beautiful flowers. And I thought, oh wow, this is stunning. But I was mistaken. You see, out of nowhere, these big, huge bumblebees, half the size of me, came and they had stingers on their faces. Oh, it was terrifying. Here they are. They're coming now.
Does anyone have any ideas of what creature this could be? In the blue shirt. A hummingbird, that is right. Very good job. So here in Manning Park, we have two different hummingbird species that you might be able to see. On the left is the rufous hummingbird, and that's the most common. It has a beautiful orange color, so if you see one around, it's likely the rufous. And on the right is the calliope hummingbird. The males have this really nice purple throat, and they're also the smallest hummingbird in North America. Pretty cool, but these are less common, so you're lucky if you see one of those around. But that purple throat of it will, when it sees a female that it likes, well, it'll spread out those feathers like this, and that female finds it very attractive, and so, well, they're happy together. These birds are also very, very smart. If you were to grow one of those hummingbirds up to the size of a human, their brains would be twice the size of ours. So they do this to remember all those flowers around them that they love to drink nectar from, and then also to remember their super long migration routes. The rufous hummingbird flies over 3,000 kilometers every single winter to its winter home. Such a little bird flying that far is pretty impressive. They're only about 8 centimeters from the tip of their beak to the end of their tail. And they have a very special way of flying, different than any other bird. They're able to not only fly forwards and side to side, but also they can hover in place like a helicopter, and they can fly backwards, and even for short bursts, they can fly right upside down. Pretty crazy. And this is partially due to how fast they flap their wings. A rufous hummingbird can flap its wings up to 60 times in 1 second. And if you just go like this for a moment and try to flap your wings or your arms as fast as possible, in 1 second, maybe 3 or 4 times you could go up and down. But 60 times, that's pretty impressive. That's not even as fast as the bee hummingbird, the smallest in the world, which can flap its wings at 80 beats in 1 second. So to demonstrate this flight, this forwards and backwards sort of flight, I have this handy hummingbird zip line, and I need one volunteer to help me out with this. And the black cat, yeah, you there, yeah. Okay, so you can stand right here, and I will get you to hold this flower, okay? And just hold it up here maybe just so there's a bit more, it's a bit stronger. All right, and you can come right up to this step, right over there. Good? Okay.
No, it's a deer! Deer! What?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, it's on the run. Fantastic. All right, I think it's gone. It ran behind the amphitheater there. Oh, there's another one. All right. I think that's, I've seen that pair around a couple times, so I don't think there's any more. Okay, so I actually have a hummingbird here, which is cooler than a deer, right? Okay, so we're gonna hold that tight. And so when a hummingbird sees this nice flower, juicy flower that it wants to drink the nectar from, it's going to zip down really fast and drink that nectar. And
That's
then,
not fast.
well, in real life it would be. And so we're going to grab that hummingbird, hold it too close to the flower, and then we're going to switch positions, okay? You can stand right there. Keep holding it. Okay. And then with still holding the hummingbird, can you flip that flower around and show the angry face towards the hummingbird? And then that angry face represents a predator or some sort of threat that it doesn't like, and it's going to want to get out of there as fast as possible. And this is often by flying backwards. So you could release that hummingbird and let it come towards me. All right. There we go. And it's flying backwards away from that threat.
Why flying
So
backwards?
thank you very much for your help. You can take a seat. Round of applause for our volunteer. And you can have a prize afterwards for helping out. You can come down. So this flight is not just because they flap their wings really hard, but also because of how they flap it. And I will demonstrate with this giant hummingbird costume.
What?
Yes. It is orange, just like the Rufus hummingbird.
I don't think that's gonna really work out.
Well, it does. I'm going to show you exactly how that hummingbird flies. Okay, so a lot of birds, well, most birds, everything other than the hummingbird, they fly like this, right? With their wings up and down, just like that, and they fly forwards. But hummingbirds fly a bit differently, and they're a little bit more upright like this, and fly using a figure eight sort of style, just like this, as if they are treading water. But they're actually treading air. That's exactly what they're doing. So they're constantly forcing air down below them, just like a helicopter. And that's how those hummingbirds fly. And they're able to do this with special muscles and bones. And that's what I have this diagram up here for. This right here is a special muscle, and we'll learn the name for that in a moment. Can anyone say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? You can just shout it out. I want to hear everybody say it. Fantastic. So in that case, you should have no problem saying this word for this muscle, which is supracoracoides. Very good. That's fantastic. So this supracoracoides muscle is what lifts the wings up for a bird, right? And so if you're flying like this, like regular birds, lifting your wings up doesn't require as much muscle as pushing them down and creating flight. But hummingbirds, they need to create flight even with that upstroke, using that supracoracoides muscle. So in hummingbirds, that is 2.5 times heavier than any other bird proportionately. So if you were to zoom up that bird, the hummingbird, to the size of any other bird, their muscles would be 2.5 times larger. So really important for creating that strong downflow. And then right here, I have the X-ray of some hummingbird wings. And 75% of their feathers on their wings are attached to their hand bones. Okay, so this gives them really good mobility, because all they have to do is turn their wrists and they flap their wings. So if you all quickly try to flap your wings like this, put your full arms, right? That can't move as fast as if you just use your wrists, right? So if most of their wings are attached, their feathers are attached to their wrists, it really helps them be able to flap their wings very, very fast. So I could explain all day with this crazy hummingbird costume, but I think that I would rather show you a video of a hummingbird in flight. And it's in slow motion, so you can actually see its wings. that's its tongue coming into the nectar to lick it up.
舌头。
And it's doing all that while it's flying. You have a question there?
Actually, their tongue wraps around their skull.
Oh yeah? My understanding was that was with woodpeckers, but I don't know. Maybe that's with the hummingbirds as well.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get a super quick or something strange and never fly again.
Pardon?
But they get a string from the
I guess so. Just like anything else.
and never fly again.
Hopefully not. In that case, they'd have to go to an animal rehabilitation center, and hopefully they could help them out.
I don't know.
So to remember the hummingbird, we are going to fly just like that, as if you're treading water, and that will be how we'll remember this bird.
So you're telling me that those weren't giant stinger-faced bumblebees?
That's right. Yep, they were just hummingbirds.
Oh my. Well, you know what? If I'd known that they weren't that dangerous, maybe I would have hung around a bit. Because they were actually pretty cool. They're quite the acrobats. Anyways, I definitely got out of there pretty quick and went for a walk. And I was walking and walking and walking, calling out for my little young ones as I was doing before. And it started getting dark, and I got really, really scared. I couldn't see nothing, and I couldn't hear nothing. And then all of a sudden, I was attacked. I rolled down a hill, tumbling, and into a hole. And there, I felt safe, but I did not move a muscle. And then my attacker asked me who cooks for me. And I was hungry, but I was not coming out of that hole. There it is there. Hide, everybody. Oh.
It's a chicken!
Does anyone have any guesses?
Flying
What that could be? At the very back, at the back of the SpongeBob? A barred owl? That's exactly right. That is a... That's very cool. You should be up here presenting all about the barred owl. Well, yes, that's right. This here is the barred owl. And it says, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? And that's how you can hear it. Just before this show, I actually heard a barred owl around this campground. So keep your ears open tonight and see if you can hear one again. These birds are very stealthy hunters. There's a few things that are very special about them. They can see really well, they can hear well, and they also have a special way of flying. So I'll get to all of those things in a moment. But first we'll talk about their hearing. You see their face there, how it looks really big and circular. It's like a disc. And that is like sort of like how we have these funnel sort of ears on the side of our head. Those act like satellite dishes to funnel in that sound from the surrounding areas right into their ears. But I don't know about you, I don't see any ears on that bird. But I assure you that deep underneath those feathers, there are two little ears on either side of their head. Now, could I have everybody put their fingers up to their ears like this and take them out and give a look at them? And they're likely pretty close to level, right? Both of our ears are pretty level on our head. But if you were an owl and did that, you would come out with your hands like this. Yeah, so their ears are actually uneven on their head. They're lopsided. One's high up there and one's low. And that helps them to be extra precise with their hearing. Us humans, we hear best knowing if something is on either side of us. But with that changing of their ears, they can hear things ahead of them and behind them and be able to pinpoint exactly where it is. So as they're flying and they hear a little rodent, they can pinpoint exactly where that is. So good that if the mouse is like this, running, then they will come in with their talons like this, and if it's forwards, they'll be able to hear that as well and come in with their talons just like that. Their hearing even is so crystal clear that in under 2 feet of snow, a little rodent could be running, and it could hear it scurrying under 2 feet of snow. So pretty crazy. And then, of course, its talons are very important. You see those big, big claws for grabbing hold of its prey. And something special with owls is that those 3 claws at the top, one of them can rotate to the back so that it is 2 and 2. When they are ready to pick up a mouse, it really gives them a good grip on that little animal. And here I have a skull of a owl, and you might notice those really big eye socket bones. All right, and that's where their eyes go. They have huge eyes, and actually, I have. If an owl was the size of a human, then its eyes would be this big. Wow. That's right. So I'm glad my eyes aren't that big. Mine work just fine the way they are. And see those bones around those eyes? That actually means it makes their eyes face forwards all the time. They can't turn their eyes around from side to side like our eyes can go. They're always facing forwards. Well, it doesn't really matter that they can't move their eyes around because they can move their head around instead. Not quite 360 degrees. They're able to turn their head 270 degrees around. So that's like if you were to look over one shoulder and then carry around with your head all the way to the other shoulder. And then of course, if they want to see something that's just out of their vision, they can just swing their head all the way back around. So with all that twisting of their head, they can see about 360 degrees. But of course, their head stops spinning. It doesn't just keep going and then pop off their head and fly away. That wouldn't be very good. You have a question? Can they fly forwards and backwards? Oh, I see what you're saying. I actually don't know about that, but I think that wouldn't be too helpful for them because then they might crash into something as they're flying. And this is the front feather from a wing of one of those owls. And you notice how it looks like a comb on there? Those help to dampen the sound of the air flowing over the wings. So as the owl's flying, it's completely silent. And not only can the rodents on the ground not hear it coming, but the owl itself also can't hear its own wings. And that means that as it flies, it can continue to listen for all those little creatures on the ground. And we have quite a few different owls in the park, not just barred owls. In the top left, there's the flammulated owl. Now, it's not too likely you'd see it here, but you could in theory, so I wanted to put it there. In the top middle, we have the great horned owl. And those little tufts on its head, those aren't horns, nor are they ears, but they're just little feathers that stick up. And actually, depending on its mood, if it's really angry, it'll move those feathers back. So you can tell how it's feeling. Same with the western screech owl, right there. Northern pygmy owl, our smallest owl. The northern saw-whet owl, and you can see just how small that is. Just about that big, because that's an adult's hand right there. And last but not least, we have the spotted owl. And these owls, they love the old-growth forests. And just as the old-growth forests are on the decline in BC, so are the spotted owls. So if your best chance to see one of these would be to go to Semello Grove here in the park. I can't guarantee you'd see one, but that's where we have some old-growth forests, so maybe they'll be there. To remember this bird, we are going to use our big talons like this and squeeze them just like that, all right? Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. All right, Peanut. Well, you know, of all the creatures you've seen so far, that one was actually dangerous for a little rodent like you.
Oh, I know. And that's why I stayed in that hole all night long. And then in the morning, I cautiously exited that hole and, well, kept walking. But I kept my eyes up on the tops of the trees because I didn't want to get jumped all over again. And while I was looking, I saw this poor creature all covered in red. And its beak, it was broken. Oh, it was so sad. It must have been attacked by that owl too. There it is there. It's calling for help. Bart, can you help it out?
Well, I'm not so sure that that is actually calling for help. Does anyone have any ideas what this bird could be? Right there? That's a very good guess. It does have red on it. Right there? Woodpecker, good guess as well.
Robin.
Robin? Good, not quite. At the back there? Red cardinal, also a good guess. And one more right there. An owl? Not this time. Well, this was a tricky one. This actually is the red crossbill.
Oh, wow.
On the left, we have the red crossbill, and the right is the white-winged crossbill. The red one's more common here in Manning Park, so we'll focus on that. And does anyone have any guesses as to why its name might be crossbill? Right there? No?
Because its beaks are not in the center, one is like that on the side.
Exactly, that's right. So their beak. Oh,
Very funny.
there we go. That beak is crossed, just like its name, crossbill. And that helps it to get into the cones of conifer trees. It will insert its beak like this into those cones and twist, and then out pops that seed that it wants to eat. So I have another demonstration here. Do I have a volunteer that would be willing to help me with this? Okay, so many hands. Right there in the middle. You know me? Yes, you. Okay, so I'm going to get you to hold these. I'll show everybody. These are crossed tongs, and this will represent our crossbill's beak. Okay, you can hold those. Hold them right here, just like that. Yep, and face it this way. Okay, and then right here we have our conifer cone and the scale that it would like to get underneath. And so we're going to insert those tongs, just like that, into there, and then twist them, okay? Twist. And it pops it open, and out falls a seed. So we got that. Very good job, you got that. Oh, and you're eating it now too. That's what they like to do. All right, thank you so much for your help. You can take a seat as well. A round of applause. Thank you. And you can get a prize for helping out as well.
跳台跟这里面的种子，所以它那个嘴是这样的啊。
That just pops in there and twists just like that to open up that cone. They can eat 20 seeds in 1 minute, so they move around pretty quick. That's one seed every 3 seconds. Much quicker than us. We're working there for a few more. These here are, it's a group of red crossbills, and they're in a group because they are nomadic, meaning that they don't have a permanent home. They just travel wherever there's food. So one year, you might see a ton of crossbills all around, and then the next year, you don't see any at all. And that doesn't mean that there's something bad happened to them. All that means is they found food elsewhere. And this also means that they can have their little chicks any time of the year. Even in the winter, if they find a good stash, then they can settle down, mate, and have lay eggs. So here are their little chicks. Does anyone think, you can just shout it out, do you think that these baby crossbills are born with crossed beaks?
No.
No?
No.
No, lots of no's. Okay, some yeses. All right, well, those of you who said no, you would be correct. They're not born with crossed beaks. However, it's not quite a genetic thing that makes them crossed. Their parents will teach them to insert their beak into a cone and twist in the same direction every time. And then as their beak grows longer and longer, and they keep twisting, eventually their beak is twisted, just like that. So it's a pretty handy thing that they have that beak for. And to remember this bird, we're going to cross our arms like this, and that's how we will remember the cross spell. All right, Tina. Well, was that the last creature that you saw on your journey?
No, not quite. After that animal, which I'm very grateful it wasn't hurt, I carried on. I walked and walked, calling for my young ones, until I came to this mountain stream, you see. And this last creature just could not be a bird. It was all gray. It was hopping up and down. It was bobbing its head just like this. Bob, bob, bob. And then it dove head first into the water, swam around a little bit, and popped back up. And it was singing a beautiful song too. It was quite lovely. Look, there it is right there. Isn't that so beautiful?
Are there any guesses what creature this could have been? It's a tricky one too, yep. A fish? Good guess. Not a fish. It is a bird this time. In the gray shirt there. A bird. It is a bird. Pink one there. A whiskey jack. That is a gray bird. Good guess. Of one more over there. That's you. You had your hand up. Also a good guess. But this is an American dipper. So it is the only aquatic songbird in North America. A songbird, well, that's just any bird that has a nice little song, just like a chickadee or a robin or some of those birds you see flittering around in the trees. But this one, it lives in the water, and it likes to eat the little insects and invertebrates on the bottom of the riverbed. But as you can see here, its feet aren't webbed, right? So that loon had big webbed feet, but this bird here does not have any webbed feet. So it actually walks along the bottom of the river, holding on to those rocks, and uses its wings to fly underwater. Okay, also, I have a photo here of one popping up, and then next is a video, and watch closely, you can see it flopping its wings underwater. See that? And it walks along the bottom too. So this is a pretty cool bird. And they also, Peanut mentioned the bobbing of its body. It will sit on the rocks when it's not fishing for those little insects, and it'll bob up and down like this.
Why?
And, well, I'll get to that.
To get ready for flight?
And then their eyelids are also bright white. So when they close them and open them, they're blinking. They flash this white, really bright white eyelids. So I just think that this could be for a few reasons. One of those is that if you're living in an area that has constantly moving water, then you want to move around quite a bit too, right? You want to blend in, so you bob up and down like that. But another reason, which they think is more possible, is that it's actually a way of communication. So if you can imagine, you're constantly living by this big stream that's bubbling and making noise, and you're trying to sing a song to talk to your friend all the way across the river. You might want to, you might not be able to hear them very well, and they might not be able to hear you. So instead, you can bob up and down and blink those eyelids and send a little message with that bird Morse code. So that's what they think. It's a secret way of communication. You have a question there? Well, this bird too has waterproof feathers, and so when it pops up, it's all dry already, so it can take off and fly as well. Yeah, good question. And then we love those little chicks, right? And so this here is a American dipper's nest. It makes a dome-shaped nest out of moss, and those little chicks will be raised in the nest for 18 to 25 days, and then right when they leave the nest, they can swim on their own. Wow. Pretty crazy. Not quite like humans. We take a few years until we can do that. But these birds, they're extra special. And you can find these nests sometimes on ledges, under ledges along the riverbed, sometimes even under bridges that cross rivers. So you could take a look underneath a bridge or something and see if you could find an American dipper nest. Maybe not now because they would have had laid their eggs earlier in the spring.
Yeah.
But to remember the American dipper, we're going to bob just like it does, like this, either your head or your whole body, whichever works best. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Can we paint our eyelids white?
You can do that if you'd like. I don't think I'm going to. But you're more than welcome. That could be a fun way of communicating with your friends. All right, well, Peanut, was that the last bird that you saw?
Yeah, that was the last thing. You see, after that American dipper, I thought that I could do the same dipping. So I jumped into the water and started swimming, but I just wasn't as good. And so I got swept away by that current. And then, luckily, I caught a branch and pulled myself out. And that's when I met you, Bart.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you're okay. Did you ever end up finding your little babies?
No, they must be so scared right now. Oh, will you help me look for them?
Yes, I think we can help you look for them. Y'all want to look around quick for those little baby chipmunks? Yeah, all right. Let's look around. Oh, I think I see them over there. Let's go, Peanut. There they are right there.
Oh, there you are. Mama, Mama. Oh, it's so good to see you all.
Wow, what a beautiful, heartwarming chipmunk reunion that is. Well, give a round of applause for that. Oh, so good. All right, so we will return Peanut to the bowl here, and maybe I can put the little babies in. Oh, look at that, so cute. Aw. And you know what, Peanut? I really wish that your kids were around here. We could have shared some of these cool bird facts with them. But you know what? I think that I have time for one more way of teaching your children in a song and dance. So you have been learning the actions to the song all along, and this is the going to the tune of the chicken dance, okay? So let's go over this quick. Just before it starts to rain, we have the first bird was the loon, right? So we have the beak like that. And then we have the hummingbird, right?
I'm gonna get soaked.
And then the owl. And then the crossbill, right? And then finally, the American dipper, okay? So I'll go through the first thing quick. It goes like this. Do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And then when it gets to the part that's like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, we're gonna be loons. And we're gonna go like this and swim through all this water that's falling from the sky. Okay? Are you ready? It starts off pretty quick. Now let's go. And you're loose. And then slow it down and speeds up. Great. Good job, everybody. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. It's raining, so you can head back to your campsites and get some shelter. But I hope you have all a good night. tomorrow night, 7 and 8 o'clock, is Fungus Among Us back here.
You can count us. There's 5 or
Oh yes, I think we had somebody counting. Thank you.